Sometimes, just sometimes, Hulk Hogan can be an alright guy. But boy is he stupid. Thanks for tuning in to another special episode of Tyler Vance Rants. I am your host Tyler Vance himself, and you're not. It's May 24th, 1985. Happy Victoria Day. On last week's TNT, Mr. Italy Salvatore Bellomo brought his entire family to share some more Italian cuisine, which offended both Brutus Beefcake and luscious Johnny Valiant, considering something smelled off about all of it. Thankfully, there will be no more assaults on our senses, considering there is no food on this episode. Instead, both the hosts of Vince McMahon and Lord Awful Alfred Hayes jump right into the interviews and bring out their first two guests, in the world's strongest man, Ken Patera, and the patriarch of the Heenan family, Bobby the Brain Heenan. Screw journalistic integrity, says McMahon, as he immediately rubs the firing of Bobby Heenan by Mr. Blunderful Paul Orndorff in the Brain's face.
Last time, as a matter of fact, we saw you on TNT, there was, at least for you, Bobby the Brain Heenan, there was a very embarrassing situation, wasn't there?
It doesn't stop there, as the ringmaster of this circus continues to prod the bear, asking how it feels to be fired.
If I had done something wrong, and I'd been the average 8 to 5 clock-punching humanoid, then I could be embarrassed.
I'm going to stop the interview there for just a second by stating some facts. Paul Orndorff is a mediocre athlete on his best day, and without the guidance of Bobby the Brain Heenan, who made something out of nothing, Mr. Blunderful's career would be nowhere. Even Patera is disturbed, claiming that he would never stab anyone in the back, let alone his manager. None of the Heenan family will ever forget the betrayal of Paul Orndorff. Believe that. You might be wondering to yourself how it would all go down if Mr. Blunderful ever grew a spine and went face to face with Bobby Heenan. Well, all I'll say is that the Brain will need some Epsom salts from how he hits Paul Orndorff. Ken Patera himself is in singles action next against Ronnie Dee, and not only does the world's strongest man prove how capable he is in the ring, but how dominant he can be as well. So much so that he didn't even bring Bobby the Brain Heenan down to the ring with him before he is able to force Dee to submit with a swinging full Nelson. Just to show Mr. Blunderful Paul Orndorff how deep in trouble he is if he were to ever come face to face with the world's strongest man, Ken Patera returns to the ring after the match, dropping some vicious elbows on Ronnie Dee. Paul Orndorff, consider yourself put on notice.
Read my lips. Undefeated. You humanoids, look at this. Undefeated. Hand raised in the air.
Returning to the TNT studio, Vince McMahon's line of questioning gets even more unprofessional, if you can believe it, asking if Bobby the Brain Heenan has begun to doubt his own management abilities since his firing.
I'm not losing it. I've got complete control of it. I'm Bobby the Brain. I'm not like this. I know what I'm doing. I am calm.
What a stupid question. The only thing Bobby Heenan has been doubting is whether or not Mr. Blunderful will be able to afford a living once the Heenan family is through with Paul Orndorff.
Paul Orndorff, when I get through with you, you'll have a face that only a mother will love.
King Curtis Iaukea is Vince McMahon's next guest, and ever since retiring from this sport of professional wrestling in 1980, King Iaukea reveals that he's let himself go a little bit, considering all he does all day, every day, is sit on Waikiki Beach in Hawaii and relax. Sounds like paradise to me. We're shown a brief snippet of a match which took place either in 1973 or 74, as both King Curtis Iaukea and his partner Baron Mikel Cicluna take on Chief Jay Strongbow and Sonny King in tag team action. Not much is shown of the match before Vince McMahon rips us from our nostalgia-induced trip down memory lane, asking the King if all the injuries he sustained as a pro wrestler, as well as all of the time spent on the road, were worth it.
It's a great honor and a privilege to be a professional wrestler.
The WWF Champion Hulk Hogan was revealed to have been chosen as the special honorary ringmaster of a Barnum and Bailey circus hosted in Madison Square Garden in the heart of New York City, USA, in honor of special needs children. The WWF Champion himself did feel honored to be chosen and felt, for the first time in his life, nervous at the huge responsibility. Now that I can respect. What I can't respect is the fact that Hulk Hogan himself emerges dressed like a clown because he reveals he was ready to do battle with the world's strongest man, Ken Patera, if they bumped into each other on the set of TNT.
Ken Patera, Big John Studd. These are the type of individuals that we don't need around the WWF.
Oh, but people like Mr. Blunderful Paul Orndorff, who couldn't even spell the word loyalty, and Mr. T, who nearly got himself arrested for his actions at WrestleMania, are just what the World Wrestling Federation needs, right? Shut up. Mean Gene Okerlund then emerges, looking like he just returned from an African safari, like the one that Mr. and Mrs. Paul Vachon were supposed to go on during their botched honeymoon, revealing the hat he's wearing was given to him personally by Truman Capote. I think it's because he just wants to hide his receding hairline. Okerlund himself says that he truly enjoys his career of interviewing all of the wrestlers in the WWF, specifically the WWF Champion Hulk Hogan, in a blatant display of butt kissing on international TV, before Gene Mean reveals that both he and Lord Awful Alfred Hayes have a history of going out boozing and harassing women.
I recall the good old days when we did a little quaffing of beer, cavorting with an occasional maiden.
No longer does Gene Okerlund have to go around harassing women, however, as according to Mean Gene, who was given that moniker by Jesse the Body Ventura of all people, has revealed that the training that he underwent last year in 1984 alongside the Hulkster has increased his stamina in between the dirt sheets exponentially.
When you told me the seriousness of the situation, that you had 7 maidens lined up 7 days in a row, I knew I had to get you in shape.
Is this really what we're talking about? Gene Okerlund's sex life? TNT has hit a new low. Oh, and in case you were wondering what Gene Okerlund is referring to with regards to the training, I've linked that episode down below for your viewing pleasure. We already know that the WWF Champion Hulk Hogan can play bass guitar, but did you know that Gene Okerlund can play the piano? Well, it's too bad for us that we're not even able to hear a single note that he plays, considering that obnoxious TNT theme plays over him while the show comes to an end. Hulk Hogan thinks he knows best. I mean, he even went on to have a TV show centered around his own egomania. But the fact is that he doesn't know anything, especially considering the Hulkster thinks that he could hold a candle to the world's strongest man, Ken Patera. One thing I know for certain is that it is only a matter of time before the Heenan family runs wild on you, Hulk Hogan! Thanks for tuning in to another special episode of Tyler Vance Rants. You can run wild on great pro wrestling content by hitting the bell, liking the video, and subscribing. Try expanding your knowledge as well by following me on social media, where it is 1985 and pro wrestling all over again. That's all for now. So long. I'm going to stop the interview. And Paul Orndorff came face to face with Bobby the Heenan.